Righto, everyone. How's it going? Thanks for coming. I'm the Warren replacement tonight. Not that it's going to be him every week, but I'm doing the thing tonight, however you want to call it. Feel free to sit around tables. Hopefully you had a good chat. There's tea and coffee over there if you want to grab any, and Milo, which I'm always a big fan to see. Robbo, appreciate that. It is the best stuff, so great to see it. If you haven't been to a Real Men event before, this is our third one, I'm pretty sure. That's right, I wasn't at the first time I was away, but yeah, this is the third one, and Real Men is all about what it looks like to follow Jesus as a bloke. What does it look like to do it day in, day out? What does it look like to do it with your mates? What does it look like to have real relationships, real friendships? So they're the different conversations that we're having, and a real hope of, I guess, this event is that it doesn't just stop here. Our heart is that the conversations, there are conversations that are stimulated from these events. So the questions we ask, the different things that maybe you're thinking about, we hope that you continue to have those thoughts and those conversations with your mates. We really want to encourage everyone, including ourselves, to go deeper and to go more below the surface in our friendships, in our conversations, to help each other grow, and particularly in our walk with Jesus. So I want to welcome everyone. My name is Brett, and tonight we've got a real treat on our hands. I'm going to be having a chat with Jono Faulkner and hearing a fair bit about his journey. Warren actually was talking to me about the concept of real fun and who we could talk to about it, and he was thinking, oh, maybe I could interview you. And I was like, well, actually, I think I've got someone who would be even better, someone who has a really interesting journey, who loves having fun, has really unique hobbies, and is a good friend of mine as well. So, Jono, I'm going to get you up in just a moment. But before we do, I'd love you to sort of just, in your tables, if you're sort of not really in a table, maybe just turn towards the people around you. And we're actually just going to have a chat about our no signal on our TV. Hopefully this will work. No? Close. There you go. So I just want to share, I want you to share just with everyone in your little sphere where you're sitting. Obviously, probably start with your name if you don't know everyone who's sitting with you, but then share what it is that you do for fun. What do you like to do in your spare time? What do you like? What do you really enjoy doing? If you had a whole day off or a week off or whatever it is, what would you just go to and do? So we're going to spend a few minutes just sharing that in your group. Righto, great to hear some good chats happening. I hope that there's been some good sort of connections made. Did anyone sort of discover there's like a shared fun thing in your group you didn't know about? Or did everyone just like different things? Nothing? No one learnt anything new? Sweet. I was really hoping they'd be like, oh yeah, we both just like found out we love riding mountain bikes. Now we're going to go on Saturday. No, but that's fine. I love having fun. It's been a huge part of my life. And I was thinking like I've got to do some sort of like fun game or something, like being the former youth pastor. I've got to come up with some sort of fun thing. So I have, but before we do that, I'm actually going to invite Jono up. So you can give Jono a big hand. He's going to come and join me. Might even sneak a couple of fun things, seeing as it is real fun. It seemed a bit rude to not do a couple of little things. Now, Jono, before we get into the first fun thing with some sort of prize, can you maybe share with the group a little bit about, I guess, maybe your family? What do you do for work? And the question, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, all right. So when Brett asked me to do this, I was like, why are you asking me to come up here? Because this is the last thing I want to do. I'd rather be diving with sharks or, doing wheelies on my motorbike or something like that. I hate speaking in front of people, but I'm here and it's a challenge, I guess. So I like getting adrenaline rushes. So this is one of those, I'm guessing. It's a bit different, but so my family, I grew up in a family of 6 kids. I got 4 sisters and a brother. 4 sisters were an advantage when I was young because they'd bring their friends home. So from that, I married Kirsty, my wife, and we've been married 26 years. I've got 3 kids. Hayden, you guys probably know Hayden. He's a bit of a troublemaker. Josh, and Alana's my daughter. I'm a teacher. I teach phys ed at Palmyra Primary School. I've just come down this year from Christmas Island. I've been living there for 14 years, and before that I was in One Arm Point. So, yeah.
So a pretty unique story, and looking forward to diving into a few of those different points. I did find it interesting that you were a bit weird about speaking to people that you're like a teacher every other day, but clearly, is it different with kids, adults? Is that like the dynamic is different?
Yeah, so I teach primary kids. I have taught high school as well, but primary kids don't seem to. Well, you feel like you're not being judged as much. They like I can sing and do whatever, be stupid in front of them, and they're pretty forgiving, and it's good. I like having fun with the kids at school, and I think that's what makes a good teacher. I think is being able to have fun with the kids, because when you're having fun, you learn.
So I thought an interesting way to get to know a bit more about Jono is that we could do a bit of a youth group style game, and I figured I had to chuck a prize up for grabs. So I got an ice cold Coke up the front here. Now, if you don't like Coke, I'm sure there's someone in your group who would dearly love you to win them one. So this is what's up for grabs. It's going to be pretty classic game, true or false. Well, true or false is in 2 different answers, but it's going to be like a head or a tail. So true is hands on the head. Sorry. The first answer will be hands on the head. The second will be on the tail. It'll all make sense. So we get everyone to stand up, and it's whoever is remaining at the end wins. If it's a Faulkner's son, I don't know if that will count, but we'll see if they make it, because they may very well not make it. So I'm going to read out a question, 2 answers. The first answer is on the head. Second answer is on the tail. Beauty. Okay. So where was Jono born? Head is Geraldton, tail is Perth. Oh, there's some uncertainty in the room. You get like 3 seconds to do it. All right, it's Geraldton. So any Perth choices, take a seat. Second question. Remember, this is going to be pretty quick, so I don't want to hear too much umming and ahhing. Yeah, you guys should go to the back. Should they sit down? What do you reckon? Yeah, you guys are out. You guys are out. All right. Okay. Where did Jono go to high school? We have Carnarvon Senior High School or Tom Price Senior High School. So Carnarvon is the head. All right. We have Tom Price Senior High. I thought that'd knock out a few. We'll get more into Jono's time in that part of the world in a minute. Alrighty. Jono is an avid spearfisher and has had many adventures. I asked him the biggest fish that he's ever speared. So heads, you're looking at a 53 kilogram dogtooth tuna, or tails, a 57 kilogram sailfish. Alrighty. We have the sailfish. So that is the tails. So how we've got a few, we've got about 6 or 7 left. Alrighty. Best wakeboard trick successfully landed. I did require the successfully landed. I know you're keen to attempt.
It's a long time ago.
Alrighty. We have a hillside backflip or a backside 360. Couldn't tell you what either of those are, but they sound extreme. Alrighty, we have the backside 360, which apparently is probably quite hard. I would imagine. I can't even do a jump. All right. Number of times Jono's been bitten by a shark. We have 0 or 2. Oh, that's yeah. We have 0.
I'm still here.
Like most of us, to be honest. Alrighty. Do we have a winner? Hey, James, well done. Enjoy responsibly. Tim, the next game's for lollies, so hopefully James wins that as well. Now, John, I thought it'd be cool to see. I've seen you on Facebook for many years, and every now and then something crazy pops up. So got you send me a whole heap of photos, and I thought there might be some stories to sort of have a look at of some of the stuff that you love doing for fun. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so do you want to talk us through? I don't know if you can see that one. Hopefully you can see it. What have we got here, mate?
Yeah. So this is Christmas Island. It's the one of the boat ramps. There's 2 boat ramps on Christmas Island. And Brett actually caught. I think you caught your first GT.
I did. It's a
GT
special
at
boat ramp.
this
That one.
spot. Very
Great
special.
things happen there.
So yeah, I went for a spearfish one day. Josh is an avid spearfisherman and fisher as well. He had the kayak and he was fishing off the kayak, and I swimming around, and it was the last dive of the day. It was just about getting dark, and I said to Josh, I'll just do one more dive, which often ended up in more than one more dive. But so I'll do one more dive. I'll do a deep dive. Just watch me. So he was on the kayak. So I dived down, and this guy came in. So I shot it, and my float just disappeared. So we run 30 litre floats that disengaged from your gun, and the float just got taken down and just disappeared out of sight. And there was another young fella, one of Joshy's mates, swimming with me, and he's like, "Where's your float?" I'm like, "It's gone." He's like, "Oh, how big's the fish?" And I said, "Oh, it's probably like 40 kilos, something like that." And anyway, it popped back up. And so I said to the young fella in the water, I said, "Can you shoot it for me? Like, shoot it a second time, just put a second shot in to make sure it's like it holds." Because often when you're spearfishing, you'll hit a fish and they'll fight, and they'll pull back out. Anyway, he's like, "I'm not shooting that fish again. Like, it's too dangerous." So Josh jumped in and swam down and shot it in the head and stoned it, rolled it over. So we got it up, and that's the fish there. Yeah.
So you've obviously, you shoot that fish. And if you're not into fishing or spearfishing, dogtooth tuna are a highly prized fish, exceptionally strong, exceptionally dirty fighters, live on reef ledges and all sorts of places. And it's, if you're in the fishing world, the idea that Jono could just walk down to his local boat ramp, hop in the water and spearfish one of these fish is like unthinkable. You know, it's such a rare capture for most other places on Earth, really. Yeah. You've got to go miles and miles offshore. But so you do that, and then what's chuck it in the back of the car?
Yeah. So we didn't have. So we went down this day, not expecting to get too much. We had the kayak there, and I had Kirsty's car, which was her work car, her Pajero. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know what we're going to do." And then Josh is like, "Why don't we just tie it to the kayak?" So we tied it to the kayak and then slid the kayak into the car and took it home like that. So, yeah.
Now, you mentioned deep dive. And so obviously you've been doing spearfishing for how long? Like since?
Since I sort of took it up at One Arm Point, actually, living on an Aboriginal community. And I was there, and one of the local Aboriginal guys asked me, this was about 20 years ago, he said, "Oh, do you want to come down and come spearfishing?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll have a look." Anyway, he shot a fish, and I was just tagging along. I didn't have a gun or anything. He shot a fish and pulled it in, put it under his arm, and then a shark's come in and tried to grab it from under his arm. And he's just turned around and started punching the shark in the face. And I'm like, "This is awesome. I've got to do this." And so so that's where it all started. I was like, looks like a lot of fun. And and so about 20 years ago.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so up until that point, I mean, I guess we've all got different things that we enjoy. So how old were you, I mean, if you don't mind me asking, how old were you then?
Yes, I'm 50 now, so I was 30.
About 30. So was it surprising that, one of the hobbies that you've now come to love and done a lot. Was it surprising that, that came about at that age, or were you sort of always open to doing new things? And
Yeah, I guess I was open to it, but from a young age, I used to do lots of snorkeling and stuff as well. So
it's just the next step.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you lived in good places where you could do this sort of cool stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Next picture. So we have another unfortunate dogtooth tuna on the screen. Do you want to share this story?
Yeah, so this is that's the biggest dogtooth tuna ever shot in WA. In fact, probably in Australia. And it was on Cocos Island. And we were told you cannot shoot a dogtooth tuna on Cocos Island because the sharks are crazy. And they were right. We went up there and we found a spot behind an island, and every time we did this drift dive, we would see 50 kilo plus dogtooth. Now this one's 70 kilo. And so they'd come past, we'd shoot one, it would get taken down, and then there'd be hundreds of sharks, and it'd be like a tornado of sharks. They'd eat your fish, and then you'd go and do the drift again and try again. So before we landed this one, we shot, what do you reckon, Hayden, was it about 6 or 7? We shot 6 or 7, about the same size. So we fed the sharks. And it was coming to the end of the day again, actually, and I said to Hayden, Josh was driving the boat, I said to Hayden, how about you just, we do one more drift, and anyway, we did one more drift. This guy came into the flasher, which is sort of like flashing stuff in the water that we hang down. And before I could dive, it was actually my dive. Hayden's just gone down, and it's come up to about 10 metres, and he's gone down and he shot it and stoned it, which means he hit it in the brain, and it's rolled it over, which sort of, the sharks didn't, come in as fast. They still came in a bit. So then I swam down, shot it, and we had it in the boat in less than a minute. So, and when we took it back to town, everyone's like, how did you get that in? And that was, we were very lucky.
And is
but that was Hayden's fish, not mine, so.
Cool story. And obviously I'm assuming you love doing it with your boys.
Yeah, it's awesome, having a hobby that your boys love as well. And I've loved doing that with them.
Now, and did I recall seeing that tuna there in the back of a Yaris or something? What car did that?
Oh, no.
At some point I've seen a big fish in the back of a very small car.
Yeah, so that was
Wasn't
actually,
that fish though?
No, that was another yellowfin I was diving with Josh. It was actually Friday we dived, we saw this big tuna, and often the tuna are in the same spot day after day if you don't get them. And so we're sitting in the water chumming up and dropping whatever we had to chop up, old fish, and sharks were coming in. And anyway, the next thing, the tunas come in, but a big tiger shark's come in. And so Josh has jumped out, and I said to him, we'll get out, because if we shoot it, the tiger will take it. So we got out. Next day we went back, tried to get it again, got this, it was a big, big yellowfin. Got it coming up, about to shoot it again, tiger shark's in there again. So the tiger had sort of learnt that we were there and probably get a free feed. So then it was Sunday morning, actually. It was before church. I said, stuff it, I'm going out there. I'm going to get that tuna. And so I went out there, and we had church at 9 o'clock. And at about 8 o'clock, I was still in the water, but I was getting this tuna to start feeding, and it was coming up. And then it came up nice and high, and I've turned to my left, and the tiger shark's right on my shoulder, basically, a big 4-metre tiger. And I've gone, stuff it, and I just went down and shot the yellowfin, and the tiger disappeared. It was it didn't eat my fish, got it in, had to take it up a ladder, and I had a little Yaris that I'd driven down. It was a shore dive again, and I chucked it in the boot of the Yaris, which was Alana's car, actually, that she was learning to drive. And then I tried to shut the boot, but the tail was hanging out of the boot, so I couldn't shut the boot. So took it home, and when I got to church, because Kirsty did the guitar at church. So when I got to church, she basically said, she was like, "Where have you been? You're late to church." I'm like, "Oh, there's a big story behind it." So I was about 15 minutes late. So stuff like that happened, fairly regularly up there.
Can I acknowledge, I guess, probably the elephant in the room is that, you casually mentioning the 4-meter tiger shark on your shoulder. There's probably a lot of people in here that would shudder at that thought. How have you found your journey with sharks? Clearly, you've got a different level of fear to the rest of us. Do you want to share a little bit about that? And has that changed over the years? Do you think about that in the water? Does it matter where you go? Yeah, just...
Yeah, I guess the more you swim with sharks, you realise that they're not like mindless, man-eaters. And Christmas Island, the water's very clear. And over the time, my boys grew up. Hayden was 5 when we got there, and Joshy was a baby. And they pretty much grew, they came swimming with me from, 5, 6 years old, and there'd be sharks and stuff in the water. But I remember a few years ago, Hayden would have only been 13 or 14, I guess, and a tiger shark came up from the deep, and they sort of they see you on top, and they're like, oh, what's that? And they come straight up at you, and they're like, 3, 4, 5 meter sharks coming up. And I saw Hayden, he was already down at about 15 meters, and I was like, what is he doing? And he's ripping his GoPro off his head, put his gun beside, and then he swam at the shark. I'm like, what did you do that for? He's like, oh, I'll get a better shot of it, So that's how comfortable we sort of got in the end with the sharks, and we realised that, they weren't there to eat us, but they were pretty curious, but yeah, so.
Cool. Well, we might, I'm sure you could talk about, there's many stories that I'm sure I could ask. I know we have a ginormous marlin here we have other fish, but I was going to move on to maybe some of the other things that you love doing, just for sake of time. How did this end up? Did this go well?
No.
It doesn't look like you're in a great spot.
Yeah, so I don't even know what I think I was going for an air railie, which is like flick your legs out and then bring them back under, but I didn't bring them back under, so yeah. But we used to always go for stupid stuff, and now...
Well, you say used to, but was it your 18th birthday or something, and I arrive at the picnic?
Yeah,
I missed the wakeboarding session. I arrive at the picnic, and you're cooked with your ankle. You've done something really ambitious.
Yeah.
So clearly you're still up to it.
Yeah, I think it was actually some of Hayden's mates that were there. They were like, oh, your dad's really good at wakeboarding. And they're like, what else can you do? And I was like, oh, I used to be able to do this flip off the jumps. And they're like, yeah, give it a go. And then broke my foot, so... Yeah, but yeah, we have a boat now, and we still go out, and I'm 50, and I try and do flips and stuff. But yeah, you pull up pretty sore the next day, as Rusty would know. So,
this one we may touch on in just a bit, but I thought at this point in time, a really interesting question to throw out to the group in your question, or to the groups, I guess, in your where you're sitting is. More on the topic of Jesus, and we're going to get to your faith and where that started and where that's, I guess, been and where it is now in a moment. But a big part about obviously real men is about looking to Jesus and what he did and what he's on about, and the concept of fun is an interesting thing to consider when you look at Jesus and you look at the Christian faith. And that's, I guess, part of what the conversation tonight is, and I hope the ongoing conversation is, where's the tension with fun and faith? How do they intersect? What does that look like? And we're going to touch on that, I guess, with Jono's story in a moment. But what I'd love you to chat about in your groups is this question of, here we go, what did Jesus do for fun? And I'm not saying you know the answer to this, but I would love you to have a think about and discuss in your groups, throw your thoughts out there. What do you reckon Jesus did for fun? Now, obviously, this is a historical question as much as anything, but to have a think about, I guess, in his different stages as a young kid, maybe as a teenager, as an adult, and then even in the times we read about in the Bible where he's doing a lot of the work that he did. Did he have fun? What could that have looked like? What do you think? So spend a few minutes chatting about that in your groups. All right. I reckon we bring it back in. Hopefully there was some good, it sounded like there's some good chats. Does anyone want to shout out a thought from their group, or they had? Does anyone want to share anything? Anyone have any? That's right. Well, that's what Jono said. I was like, he had the most fun. He walked on water. I mean, how good's that? Barefooted, yeah. Yeah, no, it's. I think we were even just talking about, the fun he would have had with messing with the religious leaders and the guys who are so hypocritical, and he would always getting under their skin. But I guess we're also talking about, and I guess this is a bit of what we're all living in, the amount of recreation, leisure, and fun that is a part of our lifestyles. I guess we're super lucky or cursed, I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, to live with that reality. Whereas back then, you got up, you slaved away, you worked, you put in, you were surviving. So it was a different time, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to think about, because sometimes we can think, God and fun are separate, or the things we do for fun are unrelated to our faith. But there's nothing that we can really do, I guess, that is unrelated to God. He's involved in absolutely everything, and He's always there. Jono, let's sort of go back a little bit to talking through, I guess, from the beginning. Do you want to maybe share, your childhood, where you grew up? I know you lived in a whole heap of different places, but maybe just a bit about, what your folks did. What sort of life growing up as a kid was like for you, and even some of the stuff you did for fun as a kid as well.
So similar to Brad, I grew up as a minister's son. So my dad was a Baptist minister. He was originally a teacher, a manual arts teacher, and he became a Baptist minister. So every couple of years we'd move to another church in another town, and moved around a lot. Everywhere from, he was a minister at Como Baptist, at Bedford Baptist. Then we went up to Port Hedland. We were there for 4 years, I think, and then we moved to Tom Price. Lived in Karratha as well, and Geraldton, obviously. So growing up in a Christian home, went to church morning, went to church at night, and then tagged along with Mum and Dad to all their meetings during the week. And so it's pretty much just part of our life, I guess. And I sort of remember, but Mum tells me at about 5 years old, I committed my life to Christ, and it was pretty young, and I guess at that age you don't understand everything, but I remember even in primary school, definitely believing that there had to be a God, and I remember going into high school and them teaching evolution and things in science. I was like, I just couldn't understand it, and I teach science now, and I just couldn't understand that people could believe that this could happen, like these amazing, things underwater and above the water could happen by chance, that they weren't actually created. And I guess my same as anyone, I'm sure all guys go through it, but I've had my ups and downs, and after year 12, I came down to Perth. So I got billeted out with a family in Perth. Mum and Dad stayed in Tom Price. And I guess that was a bit of a transition, because I'd lived in Tom Price with no Christian friends. I'd gone to church still every morning, every night on a Sunday. It's sort of something that you do, but I guess my relationship with God during high school probably went a bit like this. And then, when I came down to Perth, I didn't really have a friendship based down here. But Mark Faulkner, my cousin, went to this church, and this church really, really helped me a lot. So I came down, I joined the youth, met lots of really good people, made some good friends, and I always think if I didn't come to here, what I could have become, because it's sort of the friends here help guide me, and people like Dave Stanford who sort of help put me on the straight and narrow a bit every now and then. And there's actually a story I'll have to tell you. So I'm very competitive. I should not play team sports. So if you're playing basketball and you want me to play for you, I'm not playing. And I remember playing at Lakeside, and getting quite upset and getting kicked out of the stadium and all sorts of stuff like. And I felt so bad, but it was just like something in me. It was like this competitive thing, like you can't lose, like you got to win everything. And I remember Dave pulling me into the office. I'm pretty sure it was over here. And like he rang me up and he's like, "Oh, I need to talk to you." And I was like, "Oh man, this is like, I don't know what's going to happen here." But yeah, so he pulled me in and he just chatted and he said, like you're a bit like me and, very competitive. And yeah, from then on, I guess I tapered it a little bit. But yeah, I worked out that I need to play individual sports like freediving and things that I don't, that I'm competing against myself rather than, so that's where I've been. And even now, now I'm not perfect and, I try and be the best dad to my kids as I can and stuff like that. But, no one's perfect and, we all go through hard times and, but, try our best, I guess.
Yeah. And I know when we caught up, and I guess I got to know your story a bit more. Something that stood out to me, I guess, was some of the relationships that have helped you through different periods of your life, whether friendships or sort of older mentors, or even your relationship with your family. Did you want to, I guess, share a little bit into who have been some of those relationships that you feel like have helped you in your faith, I guess, and life over the course of the journey, and I guess what that meant to you, now looking back.
Yeah, well, I guess the number one is my dad. Growing up, he's a minister, but you'd never know. Like he was pretty crazy guy as well. Like from a young age, we always we'd go on trips. Like Dad never had much money because we're ministers, and Baptist ministers did not get paid a lot. But yeah, they did their best, and I remember my first motorbike he found at the rubbish dump, and he fixed it up, and he gave us a motorbike and had heaps of fun on it. Things like, I remember going camping and him pulling out the 22 and saying, "Set the cans up over there, we're going to have some shots, see how good you are." And I was about 8 years old, and I remember like firing this gun off and things like that, just bloke stuff that, everyone... These days I see people just playing their computer games and stuff like that. But back then, Dad showed me that, all this stuff we can do. We can have fun. We don't have to have a lot of money. We're riding motorbikes. I remember he built us a beach buggy. He built us go-karts. And, we just did fun stuff. So my dad, number one, I still look up to him as... like an amazing guy. And then going into high school in Tom Price, I had no Christian friends and I had some good friends at school, but no Christian friends. And I remember my mum saying, "Oh, we just got to pray that like some Christian friends will come to the town," but it didn't sort of happen. And then a guy came into town. He was a graduate engineer. And he was 21 years old. Brad Buellow's his name, amazing guy. And he took me under his wing. I was like 15. And we used to go for trips to Dampier and go windsurfing. And we'd do all sorts of crazy stuff. And he was quite a bit older than me. But yeah, he was someone I could talk to. I could tell him my problems, tell him stuff that probably wouldn't tell my parents. So... I really look up to him, and I'm still in contact, and I can still get on the phone and talk to him. Another guy would be Gary Denton, who a lot of you guys know. I used to go motorbike riding and wakeboarding and stuff with him. So we've sort of helped each other through some tough times. That's pretty much it at
great.
The moment.
I mean, it's great to see, I guess, a variety there. There's encouragements for those of us who are fathers and sons, those of us that are involved in a place like this, whether in youth ministry or whatever, that idea of mentoring someone who's, in an earlier stage of life. I think that's super encouraging. And then obviously a mate. Now, I guess on that component of friendships, And this is something we talked about when we caught up. A big part of Real Men is about, developing real friendships, real mates. And that's just not the sort of talk where you talk about the current events and sport and whatever. You don't stop there, but you go into the deeper parts of life, the struggles, the things that don't have easy answers, the frustrations, and the good stuff as well. How have you found, has that been, I know we talked about this, but can you share a little bit about, I guess, your own point of view on that and, the struggles that you may have had over the journey with finding people or not, feeling like you're struggling to be able to share, fear. I mean, you're not afraid of sharks, but, is there more fear in that realm? I guess your experience of what a real mate can be like, and for good and for bad.
I guess it's always hard to everyone's got like secrets that they have, and I know all guys like struggle with different things, and it is probably one of those things that like you don't want to just tell anybody those things, or you don't want to go deep with just anyone. So it's pretty important to find just that one person or two people that you can talk to and pray with and things like that. There's a guy actually on Christmas Island, and that's a funny story as well. So when I arrived on Christmas Island 14 years ago, and on the same flight, another Christian family arrived, and we didn't know they were Christians. And I was out at the golf course on a Friday night. They had like men's hackers golf on a Friday night. And Tim, he was the other phys ed teacher actually, and he's like, "Oh, Jono, what's how's your weekend been? What are you doing tomorrow or on Saturday and Sunday? What are you doing?" I said, "Oh, on Sunday I'm going to church." And he's like, he just gave me the biggest hug, and he's like, "Are you a Christian?" And I was like, "Yeah." He said, "So am I." And anyway, he's the craziest, like he's crazier than me, right? So his wife, we're having dinner, and she goes, "I cannot believe that God sent us together, because like you two together, this is not a good idea." So he was the sort of guy, we'd go for a dive, and it would be getting really dark, and we'd swum for like 2 kilometres, and he'd be like, "Let's just have a look around the next bend." And we had to get back. And I remember one time we actually had torches, and we're swimming out, we're looking for crayfish, and one of the torches went, and he's like, "Oh, don't worry, we'll just go on your torch." So he kept swimming, and then my torch died. And so we had to swim all the way back in the dark, knowing the sharks and things that are there. But yeah, we made it back. So yeah. He's the guy that I probably talk to most about stuff up there. Like we'd go out on the boat, and I find with guys, that's when you end up opening up. It's not like probably when you're sitting around a table like this or whatever. It might be when you're kicking a footy or fishing with your mates, or you're down the beach, or you're sitting out on your surfboard having a waiting for a wave to come or whatever. That's the times when you're more likely to open up. And that's what I've learnt with kids as well, like troubled kids at school. If I go and have a kick of the footy with them, more likely to talk than, if I sit them down and go, "Hey, what's going on?" Because guys aren't like that. Well, most guys aren't like that. They want to do stuff and, enjoy stuff, but then they'll start opening up to you. So, yeah.
That's good. And I remember you sharing about all the number of great conversations that have had, in the boat and wherever. And I think it's a great concept that certainly gives fun a greater purpose. Have you found that that's
one more thing? So I found the boat was probably like the best place to talk to people about God, like people that didn't know. So I'd bring people on the boat all the time, new people. People would come to the island. I'd say, "You want to come out? I'll show you around. I'll chuck you in with the trevallies and the sharks, and have a dive." And so we'd take people out. But while we're out there, you'd say things like, "So you reckon like this happened by accident? Like all this stuff?" And we'd get like discussions happening and things like that. And I don't know whether you remember, but there's a guy probably about 15 years ago, or maybe less, sold his entire life. So he sold his house, his job, his car, his jet ski, everything. He sold his friends, everything in an auction on eBay. He came to Christmas Island, and he ended up on my boat. And he said, I've made made all this money out of selling my life, so now I'm going to go around the world, and I've got a bucket list that I'm going to tick off. Anyway, we were talking to him, and I remember Tim, the other Christian guy on the island, saying to him, so you're going to do all this stuff, but then what? Like, what are you going to do after that? And he's like, oh, I'll find something else. And then Tim was able to talk to him about God, and I remember thinking, oh, you did that really well, and that's a sort of a good lead-in type thing. So, yeah.
Do you find in those situations that you have an idea to raise a topic like that, or is it something that you preemptively think about before, like, who can I invite that's not a Christian and bring them on the boat, and then I'm going to sort of, hit them with a question? Or is it more like a sense of just a thought popping into mind? I mean, those of us that are Christians, probably consider it the Holy Spirit speaking to us, but do you sense there's a bit of both? Like, how much initiative versus just sort of winging it?
Yeah, well, the thing is, right, if you get people on your boat, you've got a captive audience, and if you chuck them in with the sharks, you've got a captive audience. So, but not really. Like, I just enjoyed at Christmas Island, I think, just taking people out. I just love showing people around. I loved it when Dave and Rayma came up and we could show them around, and that's just what I like to do, Much rather be doing that than doing this. Yeah, it's, but then I think sometimes God just says, hey, you should say this, or like a thought will come to your mind, or sometimes, like, I can be a pretty argumentative sort of a person because I have strong views on things. And so sometimes I'll chuck in a little comment to see if I can create a heated discussion type thing. But yeah, as I've got older and a bit wiser, I guess, I've sort of tried to use that to talk to people about God, and say
I think it's amazing. We know God can use anything at any time to speak for any reason. It was so funny talking to Jono how I feel like we were very alike in lots of ways in terms of the way in which we pursue things that we really enjoy doing and our hobbies, and it's amazing how God can speak using anything, anytime. I think it's really cool. And a story that came to my mind, I was like, I'll share just to illustrate the weirdness of it. And a few of these people are aware of it in the room, but I've really got into fishing recently with a drone, and I was out with Lewis, Tom, a couple of weeks ago. He's sitting down here at the front, and we got a heap of fish, filleted them up, and it was a weeknight, and I was out got home about 11:45 at night, and I've been going pretty hard in this passion lately. I've been really enjoying it. And I was pretty tired on the way home. It's about a 35-minute drive to my house from where we were. And I got home and opened up the back of the car, and I was looking at all the stuff, and I'm like, where are the fillets? So I couldn't see them. I was like, oh, I've left them at the beach. And so I was like, it's almost midnight. I've got this 35-minute one-way drive, so an hour 10 on a Tuesday night. I'm like, no, this is terrible. But I was like, I've just got to do it. I couldn't leave. I think it was a few kilos of fish. I can't just leave it there to rot or be put in the bin. And it was so interesting. On the way there, I hadn't thought about this, but a thought just sort of came in my mind of God sort of just saying, I've got your attention now. And I guess you call it faith, but I had this sense of him sort of just, part of me thinks this is where God can have fun with us. I think he maybe just blinded me to seeing that fillets and wanted my attention. But I guess it spoke to me about sometimes we can get really caught up in the fun of life and all the stuff that we get busy with, which is a huge epidemic and problem in our society. We can get so busy, and I think it's just another gentle and loving reminder, I feel like, from God to say, mate, you need to slow down sometimes. Don't forget about me. It's not just about doing stuff. And when we caught up, I know you mentioned your addictive personality, which is, I guess, I resonated with in a big way. and how you can get addicted to fun. And I thought, can you share more about, I guess, that and how you balance that in faith, or with faith and the rest of life. Some people, like the guy who sold his entire life, he's got this bucket list and he's like you beauty, I'm early retirement, I'm just going to have fun my whole life, and it's the dream that apparently everyone wants, but we know there's more to life than just fun. Can you share a bit more about that and how that's played out in your life, and I guess the struggle and the balance that you've had with the pursuits? Clearly you're very talented at lots of things you do, and you're humble. You're keen to, you work hard at your craft. You put a lot of time and effort into doing that. How do you balance that with the rest of life, and also with with faith? Over the really long question, I apologise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So yeah, I'm guessing I do have a bit of an addictive personality, and I was talking to my wife about it the other day, and pretty much if I do something, I do it 110%. But otherwise, I just don't do it. So at the moment, although there's not been a lot of wind, but I've taken up kite surfing. So I'll just do that until I can get as good as I can at it, because, that's my personality. I like to, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it well, or not do it at all. And Kirsty, always at Christmas Island, she used to, I'd be home and I'd been at work or something and I'd be a bit grumpy. She'd go for a dive. And she knew that if I went for a dive, it was like a drug hit. I'd get my drug, come back, and then I'd feel, normal again. But yeah, a couple of days later, she'd go for another dive. So, and I was talking to Brett about it, and I was saying, I reckon, if I wasn't doing these things with adrenaline hits, then maybe I'd be doing drugs or, something else, which is, everyone's got their thing. So it can be a bad thing as well, because you can end up spending all your time, trying to get good at those things and at the same time, I guess, ignoring God. I guess an example of it is when I drive to church and I come across Canning Highway and I'm like, it's a glass out. And I'm on the phone to Hayden, what are we doing? And it's church or go for a wakeboard, So always try and prioritize that, you got to still spend that time with God, and He's going to give you those things to enjoy as well. But, I found a lot of the time when I was underwater, when I was swimming, peaceful, and I always felt like I was close to God when I'm diving. But yeah, it is a balance, and I'm not sure about you guys, but I just find sometimes I just spend way too much time doing those things, or thinking about them, or trying to get better at them, watching YouTube videos so that I can learn a new flip, or
Yeah, I think it's a tension we can all relate to. It may not be doing a flip on a kite surfing, but it's something. We've all got, I guess they're good, but they can be things that can turn from, I know Warren mentioned this in the last one, it can become a good thing to a God thing. It can become bigger than our faith. I guess moving forward in your life, this is something you're aware of. What does it, I guess, look, or what do you hope it looks like going into the future in terms of continuing to navigate that tension of, because I guess it's an element of busyness, right? You work, but then when you're not working, you've only got so much time. You can spend it doing a lot of different things. And at the end of the day, time is the one thing that's probably the most important we've all got, in a sense. And it's the one thing you can't get back. How do you see, I guess, the future panning out? What are your hopes for how that balance looks like? Is there sort of changes you'd love to make? Are they things you struggle to think you'll even do? What are your hopes for that going forward? Because I think it's not going away. That's what I'm learning as I get older. It's always going to be there.
Yeah, I guess it's always going to be there, and I think sometimes God just stops you, and he just for instance, when I broke my ankle, I couldn't really do much, so for other things, like he places you in different situations. So Christmas Island, I went to Christmas Island. The church is like 30, maybe 40 people in the church, no minister. First day I get there, they're like, so when do you want to preach? I was like, what the heck? I'm not preaching. They're like, we got no one to preach, we're going to put you on a roster. So for 14 years, every 4 weeks, I had to prepare a sermon and preach. I'm not a minister, but God does things like that. And I think if I'd stayed in Perth and not gone to Christmas Island, I wouldn't have delved as deeply into the Bible because I was forced to, basically. So sometimes God just stops us and says, hey, it's you got to give me a little bit more time. It is a struggle. And the app that, I can't remember what it's called, something 365, I put it on my phone, and it's really good because it buzzes sometimes when I'm still asleep. And in the morning, and it buzzes and it tells you, and it's like, at the moment I'm doing the 10-minute thing, and you listen, or the guy on it's got a weird accent, but so I've started just reading it, but it's actually quite good because it forces you to actually do that time. Because I was finding devotions, sometimes I'd quickly read a verse, read the Bible. It might be 3 minutes, and I'm like, I'm done, rather than actually consciously spending time with God and asking Him what His direction and stuff like that.
That's good. I feel like listening to that, I can hear certainly we've got a role. We've got to show some initiative and play our part, but at the same time, we've also got to be aware that God might be calling us to do things we're not comfortable with. Almost all the time, calling us to do things we're not comfortable with, but things He's going to help us with and lead us into, and that's obedience, right? That's awesome. That's really encouraging to hear. I thought we'll go back to our groups for one final question. Hopefully I can. Sorry, it's been a bit inactive, so let's see if we can get this thing up. But actually, Dad, when we were talking about this concept of real fun, Dad sent me a quote from a book that's actually the sequel, I think, to the one that we're doing in church at the moment, called The Good and Beautiful God. And there's the next one, I think another book he wrote is The Good and Beautiful Life. And there's a whole chapter on play, and I guess I equate that to having fun. And this is the first sentence in the chapter. It says, play is a spiritual exercise that can teach us about living in the kingdom of God. And I read that, and I was like, that is so interesting. And I don't really know all the things to think about that. And it got me thinking, you know what, we should chuck that around the tables. And have a think about that and share your thoughts. You could think that's a load of rubbish. You might think, you know what, I agree with some of it, but I'm not sure. I don't know what you think about that. But we're just going to spend a few minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll just have a time for probably just a couple of questions with Jono before we wrap up. Feel free to chat about the tables. Alrighty, we might bring it back in there just so we can keep things grooving. But I encourage you to keep conversations rolling after or in the week. It's a great concept to explore. We were just talking then, and there is that stereotype, I guess, of Christians and not having fun and being a bit of a buzzkills, or God is like that. There is that thought that is out there, and yet we're aware of, I guess, the way God created the world and how He created it for our enjoyment, our relationship, and to certainly have fun. So it's good to keep thinking about and to keep talking about what does it look like for play or fun to be a spiritual practice, to actually be something that we implement in our relationship with God. How do we bring that together? We're going to have just time for a few questions, but before we do, John, I'm just wondering if you've sort of got anything you'd love to, I guess, leave with the guys before we have the questions. Is there any sort of parting thoughts or, summation of all the things that have been said tonight?
I guess so I've still got heaps of non-Christian friends and that I hang out with, and I pray that one day they'll come across the other side. But the thing that I think holds them back a lot of the time is they think that soon as they become a Christian, that all their fun's going to stop. And they don't understand that, hey, it's actually the opposite, that God wants us to live life to the full. And I always go back to the verse John 10:10, which says, the thief comes to kill or steal, kill, and destroy, but I come that you may have life and life to the full. And that's what he wants. He wants us to live life to the full, which means he wants the best for us. I was saying to Brett, it's like the final thing, but when I was at One Arm Point, I had an absolute passion for spearfishing by the end of it. I was there for 5 years, speared fish, had crocodiles swim past while we were diving, all sorts of stuff happened. I loved it so much. And God said, I gave you that passion, and like you love it, and I'm gonna help you with that. So I was back in Perth, applied to Christmas Island. When I got to Christmas Island, they said, here's your house. And I was like, what the heck? They've given me a house right on the waterfront. I walk across the road, down the cliff, and spearing, 30-kilo wahoos and dogtooth tuna. And God was like, that's for you. And that's what I really think. Like, he doesn't go, you love spearfishing, I'm going to send you out into the desert. Or, I mean, he might, but...
let's not rule it out. It could happen.
That's not right. I'm probably going there tomorrow. But yeah, he he's got our best interests at heart, and and I just felt like he was saying, hey, this is a blessing for you, and now it's up to you to not just have this, but for you to bless others with it, and and hopefully we did that while we're up there. So yeah.
That's awesome. It's going to be exciting to see what that looks like in Perth, where you can't even get a 30-centimetre brim across from the road of your house, unfortunately. But I guess I'm reminded about, not just your hobbies, but your work and every part of your life. That's where God wants to work, and he's there with us, and he's got his best for us. And part of the fun is discovering what that looks like and trusting him that is actually the best. Sometimes we think we know better. Now, question time, probably depending on how long they are, but we'll try and get a few. So feel free to throw up your hand if you've got a question you'd love to ask Jono about any of his things he's raised or hasn't said. And if there's no questions, that's all right. But right, before you ask your question, right, I actually thought, you know what, who asks the first question gets the party mix. So I'll bless your table out the back there with some lollies. Oh yeah, it was a real shame you young blokes at the front. That's all right. Well done, Ryan. Enjoy that. Your question.
Yeah, well, that's it. That is an interesting one because at One Arm Point, we didn't have kids to start with, and had a boat and used to go out spearfishing, and Kirsty would jump on, and then anyway, had Hayden, and basically, as soon as we got back to One Arm Point, I said, hey, the collapsible cot fits in the boat. And so we used to put Hayden into the collapsible cot inside the boat, and we'd still go. And I remember he must have been about 3 years old. He climbed out of the cot and climbed up onto the front of the boat, stuck his feet through on the bow, and then held on there. And I said to Kirsty, he's going to fall in if we leave him there. So we put a life jacket on him, tied a rope to his life jacket, and that's where he was forever. And you'll probably notice if you ever take him on the boat now, he always climbs up the front and sits on the front. So yeah, we just sort of, and I guess I learnt that from Mum and Dad. Everywhere they went, we always went. If they were playing sport, we'd go to the sport with them. If they were, going to meetings, we'd go to the meetings with them. So we tried to do that. And I think hopefully it's rubbed off on the kids. They'll be pretty adventurous as well. And I think families that play together stay together. So yeah.
Anyone else? Yeah, Adley.
I guess not really an effort, but like I said before, like when I was diving, often like I'd pray while I was diving, or like it's very peaceful under the water, and I always, quite often I'd dive by myself, which isn't probably recommended. You should always have a buddy, but yeah, I just always felt close to God when I did that, and I used to look at creation like under the water and think, how on earth could anyone think that this is by accident? This has just happened out of nowhere, because there is amazing sea life, like just crazy, the things that you see under there. So.
Have you ever picked up a hobby or something that you've been passionate about, but felt like either God or something that you were saying you actually needed to not pursue it, or have you ever had to sort of manage that?
Not really. Maybe like the sports that. So I really love sports. I'm a phys ed teacher. Love every sport. Love AFL. Love the West Coast Eagles, even though they're doing bad this year. But yeah, not really. Yeah, some I'm really bad at, like golf. I love playing golf, but yeah, I'm not great at it. But yeah, I don't think I've really had any. Maybe just some that God said, hey, you need to sort of slow down a bit, or not put so much focus into that thing. Yeah, which maybe is what he's saying now, because I haven't been spearfishing for 6 months, so maybe moving back to Perth's one of those things. Yeah. Yep.
Do you set aside time per week to do your hobbies or activities, or do you just, when I can, I'm going to go?
Yeah, so on Christmas Island, it was pretty much every day. So I'd finish school at like 2 o'clock, and we'd be on the boat by 3 o'clock, and we'd be like spearing and swimming with whale sharks, and then on weekends, like the weekends were just planned. Like it was like Saturday all day on the boat, Sunday go to church, and then as soon as finished church, back on. So it was probably, yeah, we probably did more than we should have, but we always had plenty of fish to eat. Yeah, so yeah, now that I'm back in Perth, like we've got a boat and that, I got bored pretty quickly. So Hayden and I bought a boat, and we've been sort of setting a bit of time aside when the weather's good to go, go to Roto or go wakeboarding, or but it's just sort of weather dependent down here, and yeah, the winter sort of sucks.
When I visited Jono and his family in 2018 at Christmas Island, and I mean, he speaks my language in so many ways, but I literally landed, I don't know when the flight landed, maybe 2:30, and I reckon by 3:30 I'd caught my first wahoo. It was like literally dump the luggage, let's get the boat out, let's go, and I was like, this is a guy I like. Like no fluffing about, it's just,
No, let's go.
I know you like it, let's get out there and do it. It was, it was awesome. Maybe one.
And we probably lost some of the biggest fish ever. Well,
I think that was probably another thing God was trying to tell me. I don't know. Everything went wrong. Yeah. That was good. Cool. Maybe one last question before we wrap up, if anyone's got one.
Yeah, well, Hayden's going up at Christmas time, so if you want to tag along with him.
So will you go back? Or would you like when would you like to go back?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to go back. I'd like to go back to Cocos, actually, where we got the big dogtooth tuna, and do another session up there, because yeah, it's pretty wild. Lots of sharks and lots of action. So
That's good. Well, thank you so much, mate, for sharing all that you have, and thanks everyone, I guess, for being here. So many things that we can take away from that, I'm sure, and I hope and pray there's things that you just remember, whether it's during the week or in the future, things that God will prompt you, whether it's about mates or dad relationships or fun or whatever it is. I hope tonight's been encouragement for you in your own walk, and maybe seeing fun in a different light, maybe seeing the intersection of God and fun in a different way. It's exciting what God does in us. You never really know, and I know I've certainly experienced in my life that He's always interested in the things we're passionate about. and there's the verse says, I've just lost it. The one about the desires of your heart. Is it delight in the Lord, and He'll give you the desires of your heart. And for me, I always come back to that as such a great thought, because there's this sense of just loving and delighting in God, and it'll help shape what you want and what you're passionate about, and it shapes your heart. And you can see that, I guess, with you, Jono, in how your heart is for God, but He still enables you to do what you love at the same time through it all. And He's not absent from that, and He doesn't look down upon it, and it's not insignificant. Sometimes we can get a bit serious about stuff, but that's the thing that I've been really encouraged by tonight. So, encourage you to keep those conversations going. Meet up with, maybe you've got a mate here, or you've got a group that you meet with in the week or whatever. Keep talking about it. Keep talking about these sort of things. Go deeper. God always wants us to go deeper in Him, because there's always more to discover, and it's really good. And I did want to say as well, if you're one of those people that's like, I really crave a deeper relationships, being involved in a group, talk to us about it. Talk with the crew here at church, or who you came with, or whoever. Sometimes it can take an initiating conversation to get that going and actually go deeper. And often I've found, when you go there, the person's, or there's people that are willing to go there as well, but someone's got to make the first move as well. So encourage you in that. Maybe I'll just pray for you, mate, pray for us as we wrap up. Dear God, thank you so much for tonight, Lord. Thank you for Jono and for his life. Thank you that you take great delight in him, Lord, as your creation, Lord, as your son, Lord. You love him so much, and as you love all of us, all of our innermost being, the things we love to do. You love the things you know the things we struggle with. Our needs more than we do. And you're an incredible creative God. We look around at the world and we are in awe and wonder of the works of your hands, Lord. It's incredible what you have made, and that we get to enjoy creation knowing you is so good, Lord. We pray for those who so love your creation but just don't know you yet, Lord. We know it's an impartial view of your creation to not know you as well, and I pray for those, Lord, whether it's in the room or wherever, Lord, that they would grow deeper in their understanding of you and how much you love fun, how much you love enjoyment, Lord. You created us to be in relationship with you, to enjoy our relationship with you, Lord. That's our purpose. That's why we're made. And I pray we would all grow, I guess, deeper in our realization of that and the outworking of it as well. And I also pray, for our for our friendships, Lord, and Lord, that I guess as Christian man, Lord, and real man, Lord, we'd be continually pursuing not only a deeper relationship with you, but a deeper relationship with other people as well, Lord, and that we'd be vulnerable with those that are close to us, and we'd spur one another on in our faith, Lord, to know you more and to see more of your kingdom come, Lord, on this earth as it is in heaven. So thank you so much for this night, Lord, and I pray His blessing on everyone who's here. Thank you for their willingness to come out and give out their time to be here, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to hang around. And thank Jono. Tea and coffee still here. If you want to continue to hang and chat, feel free. If you want to, head off and keep chatting in the coffee shop or Macca's or whatever, go for it. So thanks. There'll be another Real Men sometime soon.